Start suggestions for the next 30 minutes. Be answering all questions that we have before 5 o'clock. Got to run to the gym before the game. I don't have any fantasy players playing in tonight's game, so not that I don't care. I'm gonna watch the game. I'll just be at the gym, so I'm gonna have to leave at like 3:30, so 3:45. So I'll be answering all questions until then. And yeah, it should be fun. I'm going to look at the questions on my phone because they don't show up through Restream, but I'm streaming on YouTube, streaming on X and TikTok right now. So it'll be fun. It'll be great. And whenever we get some questions, I will answer them. But yeah, basically any last minute sit start suggestions, anything like that, I'll answer. And yeah, we'll have a good time. ETN or Swift? ETN. I like both this week. ETN is a tougher matchup, but ETN's been just simply better. Nick or Dak or Hurts. That's what Nick said. I lean Hurts, but that's very close. That's like my third and fifth QB on my rankings right now. Trade Travis Hunter and Travis Kelce for Ferguson and Judkins. I don't hate it. Travis Hunter's, I don't know if he's going to do anything all year. I think it's a pretty even trade, though. ETN or McMillan. McMillan's a must start the rest of the season. Caleb or May. Caleb. Or actually May, but it's close. May has you would say on paper, a tougher matchup, but Pittsburgh's given up 30-plus points in back-to-back games. Bill or Pacheco, you got to start Bill. Pacheco has no upside right now. ETN or Mason, let's go. Mason this week is a lock-it-in must-start, and that'll be in my must-start running back video coming out tomorrow. I did wide receivers today, but when I post tomorrow, it's going to be more about the running backs, which ones to start and sit. But make sure you're checking out my content, following me on TikTok right here all week so you can get all of the rankings, all of the information, and all of the analysis and stuff like that. So Baker Mayfield, Josh Jacobs, Chris Godwin for Hurts, Trevion Henderson, and Buka. One of the last trade questions I'm going to ask, because this is primarily sit-start suggestions for this weekend, but Baker Mayfield, Josh Jacobs, and Chris Godwin for Jalen Hurts, Henderson, and Buka. I like the Hurts, Henderson, and Igbuka side. I know Jacobs is good, but Henderson's going to pop off at some point. Might not be this week. May take a while. With rookies, it takes time. Gibbs' first three games was 8, 12, and 8, right? Fantasy points. So, yeah. Ladd or McMillan. McMillan's a must start at this point. He's better than Ladd at this point. I think Ladd will play better. And Ladd is a guy that I don't think you guys should be selling high on. But at the end of the day, it's tougher to start him right now than a guy like McMillan or a Pearsall or Jordan Mason. Like, those are three guys I would start over Ladd McConkey this week. Trade, you get ETN, he gets Quinn and Johnston. That's a great trade for you. Now, I'm not going to answer any more trade questions. I'm going to answer simply sit starts from now on. Kyron, ETN, Jalen Warren, Garrett. I would go ETN, Jalen Warren, and Jalen Warren. Yeah. Kyron is a tough matchup against Philly. Garrett without Fields. I'm assuming that's Garrett Wilson. I don't know of any other Garrett at the receiver or playmaker position. Going to have a tough time without Justin Fields. So Worthy or Keon, I would go. That's tough. I like Keon Coleman tonight a lot. Maybe I'm crazy because last week he did nothing, but like, I don't know. I feel like he's going to get a touchdown tonight. Maybe that's just me. Sutton or Igbuka. I would go this week. Well, Emeka didn't practice, so he might not play. So just make sure that he's playing and healthy before you make that. I mean, obviously it's Igbuka right now. Sutton hasn't done anything to start the year. It's been Franklin's team so far. But again, like, you got to wait until it's confirmed he's going to play, because I don't think he practiced today. Didn't practice yesterday, that's for sure. Igbuka or Garrett Wilson. Again, same thing. I would go Igbuka, but you got to make sure he's playing. Troy Franklin, DJ Moore, QJ, Scattaboo, pick one. That's tough. I'm going to go QJ just because, well, were they playing Denver? I'd go Troy Franklin. It's close, though. Denver's got an elite defense. Jawan. I don't know what was going on with that. Should be good. You should hear me now. Lost connection for a sec. Hubbard or ETN? ETN. Well, this week actually Hubbard, overall ETN, like rest of season. Marv or Olave, ROS. I'd probably lean Olave. It's so tough, guys. Like, I don't know. Marv doesn't look too good. Olave's target share is substantial and through the roof. TJ or Kraft. I mean, I'd play Kraft if he's healthy, but I don't know if he's going to play this weekend. Trey Judkins and Keon for ETN and Pittman. Yeah, I'd do that for sure. ETN's a superstar this year. Christina says pick 3: Evans, DJ Moore, Pickens, Waddle, Franklin, Diggs. Help. I got you. I personally, Mike Evans, George Pickens, and Troy Franklin. Yeah, I think those are 3 must starts right now. I mean, Franklin has a tough matchup against the Chargers, but the target share has been substantial for him. Like, he's kind of a must start at this point. Again, if you haven't already, make sure you're following me on TikTok. Make sure you're subbing to my YouTube. Some great long form content coming there. Going to come out with a weekly fantasy show starting this week. I should have started it months ago, but I'm going to start an hour fantasy show this week on YouTube exclusively, going through all my rankings and stuff and everything like that. So make sure you're subscribing on YouTube. You're following me here on TikTok, following on X as well. But I appreciate and love all you guys, regardless, whether you like me or not. I appreciate the support. Kincaid or Njoku, that's a tougher one. I'd lean Kincaid. I think he has a good matchup tonight. Njoku, he's been kind of outpaced by has been outpaced by Fandon so far this year. Pearsall, DJ Moore, or T. I would personally go Pearsall. I think T's a sit this week. DJ Moore is probably a sit as well. Pearsall is going up against virtually a Cardinals secondary that has nobody playing. They're all injured. So, yeah. Jameson Williams or Marvin Harrison. I'd go Jameson Williams. Myers, Igbuka, or Swift. That's a tougher one. I'd probably go Igbuka if he plays, but again, that's a big if. You got to see Sunday morning and keep yourself updated on what he's going to do and if he's going to play. But if he's not healthy, then I would obviously go. Where the other one? Oh, Myers. Myers will have a pretty good game. Ted or Ladd. You got to start Ted or McMillan. He's a must start at this point. Absolute must start. Like, there's no doubt about it at this point. Ted or McMillan is a must start. Pollard or Dobbins. I would personally go Pollard. I think the matchup's a little better. Dobbins has been better to start the year. But Sean Payton's comments about Harvey getting into the offense a little more, it would concern me a little bit for Dobbins, even though it hasn't happened yet. We tend to see rookies in week 3 start to get more usage. And then it keeps going throughout the season. Dobbins can't stay healthy. I would try and trade Dobbins if you guys can, if you're a Dobbins fantasy owner. Start Jake Ferguson or Harold Fannin? That's a great question. I would start Jake Ferguson. I think he's a better matchup. Fannin has Green Bay, right? Yeah, I would start Ferguson. Ferguson was great last week, and they have an easy matchup against a team that just gave up 52 points. So, Sutton or Nico, rest of season. Nico by like 100. Jet, like it's not even close, like by far. Sutton, I was one of the only people that said fade Sutton this year. People try to cook me, but it was because I was so high on both Mims and Franklin. And it looks like Franklin's been the guy this year. Yeah, no worries. I like Sutton. I just don't. I knew he was never going to replicate what he did last season. Like, that was a career year for him. Bo Nix, trusting a veteran. But you got to remember, like, Franklin played with Bo Nix in college. They've had this rapport they've built for years. So, Tootin or Henderson? Oh, that's a tough one. I'd probably go Henderson, but it's close, man. Tootin's also questionable. You got to see if he plays, right? Make sure you're following me again on TikTok, on YouTube. Going to come out with some long form videos on YouTube as well, detailing all of my rankings and stuff like that. So make sure you sub there. On X as well, going to come out with some written content more and more like I've been doing. I just had a great thread on Drake London that was posted there. But again, if I don't get to your sit start response questions, make sure you're following me on TikTok. If you're following me on TikTok and you ask it via DM, I will respond if you're following me. I just don't have the time to respond to like 500 people if they're not following me. You know, it's like, I'd appreciate the support if I'm going to give advice. You know what I mean? It's like, at the end of the day, that's kind of how it goes. Like, it's tougher for me to respond to everybody, but I'm going to get to everybody I can. Dak or Herbert? I'd lean Dak, but it's close. Shakir or James Conner in your flex. K9, James Conner at RB. K9 is a must start this week. K9 looked really good last week. And again, I always advise, if you have K9, get Charbonnet as well, just so you have both, because it's that running back room fluctuates so much. In a bad situation, you start Tootin or Harvey. God, I'm praying for you. My gut says Tootin if he's healthy. I just had to make a trade for K9 in that league. And I wasn't even a big K9 guy, simply because I couldn't start Hampton, Harvey, or Henderson at my RB2 this week. Luckily, I had Mason, who's my RB1 in that league this week. Yeah, I was down to my wide receivers though were Neighbors, London, McMillan, Pearsall. I traded London for Kanine and some depth there. I thought that was pretty fair, even though I like London. Like I needed the running back desperately in that league. McMillan or Quinton Johnston? Lexi says McMillan. Quinton Johnston has a tough matchup, I believe. Now, if the Broncos are smart, the way Quinton has been playing, you put Pat Surtain on Quinton, right? Because Quinton's the 6'4" guy. Like, sure, Keenan's 6'4". I guess you could put him on there. Ladd is playing from the slot, right? So Ladd is actually probably a better start this week than QJ or Keenan. I just don't. It's tough for me to trust wide receivers against the Broncos secondary. It's just very difficult for me to do. Maybe it's just me again, but again, it's hard for me to trust any of them this week. Thoughts on BTJ? Like BTJ as a buy low guy. Now, again, I don't think that he's top of my list going to be great. Like, I would rather trade for Drake London than BTJ, but they're both kind of in that realm where some weeks they'll have like 25 fantasy points and other weeks they'll have 5. You know, it's not really their fault. Cup, Ayu Manor, or Henderson at flex. Sounds crazy. I would start Ayu Manor over Henderson and Cup this week. And Cup played great last week. I would still start Ayu Manor over those guys. Josh says, need a flex. Coleman, Juwan Jennings, or K9. Yeah, Josh, I do like Keon Coleman tonight, but I would go Ken Walker. I think just based off what we saw last week, 13 carries, 107 yards, touchdown, averaging 8-9 yards a carry. And Charbonnet's dealing with an injury, so he could be a full workhorse back this week against the New Orleans run defense that's not that good. I think Kenneth Walker III is a must start this week, like over almost anybody. Pickens or Sutton at flex. Yeah, I would start Pickens. I think Pickens, he had his breakout game last week. I think he's going to be great. ETN or Swift? I'd lean ETN. Now, Swift is a better matchup, but ETN's been so good. And we saw Bucky Irving still did a lot against Houston. And so did Rachaad White, right? So why can't ETN? He's in that same realm right now as Bucky Irving in terms of production. Mason or Warren rest of the season? Oh, Jalen Warren or Mason? I would lean Mason. Thoughts about ETN this week? Yeah, bro. I like ETN a lot this week, Lucas. Like, it's just not to the level that I've liked them in previous weeks. Like, Houston's D-line, I think, will play better. Again, Bucky played pretty well, especially catching the football. I think ETN's going to have to get his fantasy production from the passing game. I don't think he'll be able to just run down the entire game. So it does concern me. If he's going to have a dud performance, it might be against Houston, like the entire year. But I still think he can get 10 to 15 fantasy points this game, and obviously 20 if he catches a touchdown or runs in a touchdown. Reek or JCM this week? So I would lean Reek. JCM probably gets a touchdown this week, but Reek is literally the only receiver there. Is Waddle even playing? I don't even think Waddle's playing. I haven't checked. He was questionable. Let's see. I don't know if they've made a designation on Jalen Waddle yet. That's a big thing. Let's see. Just confirm to me he's good to go. Okay, so Jalen Waddle is playing. That would concern me a little more about Tyreek. Yeah, personally. So I would probably go JCM. Tyreek's metrics against the Bills haven't been good, like ever. You look at what he's done against the Bills. I think it's the max he's ever had is 80 yards. Trade Tet and Henderson for Rashee Rice and Scadaboo. That's way too much for Rashee Rice and Scadaboo. You're trading a guy that's better than Scadaboo and Henderson and will get snaps long term. And then Tet, who's better than Rashee Rice, even when Rashee Rice comes back. Probably. I mean, that's how good Tet looks. And he's got a monopoly on the offense. Juwan Johnson or Dalton Kincaid? Juwan. I mean, it's back-to-back 15-plus fantasy point games. You have to start him at this point. There's no question. Let's see. DJ Moore for Warren. I do like that trade. Jalen is going to play great because Caleb's going to be in the doghouse for what happened last week. So Warren's going to continue to be utilized, especially as a receiver. If it's a PPR league, Warren is by far more valuable. Let's see. Start Baker or Dak. Dak, better matchup. Baker, the issue I have there is Baker's probably going to be ahead the entire game, which means they're just going to run. If I had to guess, they're probably going to run. Yeah. Ayu Manor or Hollywood Brown at flex? I would go Ayu Manor because I think Worthy plays. Who should you trade J.K. Dobbins for? See if you can get somebody like Amari and Hampton. And the reason why I say that is you're playing the long game, right? Dobbins has a history of injuries. Even if he has another 15 fantasy point game this week and next week, I'm still thinking about later in the season who is a better running back between Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris. It's Omarion Hampton. Now I get the fumble and he might not be playable this week. Like Omarion Hampton is an obvious sit this week based off what we've seen. But he will get going at some point. So will Trevion Henderson. So will RJ Harvey. So I think that's a perfect trade. I would trade J.K. Dobbins for Omarion Hampton. I think you can get him dirt cheap. I think you can get him for that at this point. And that's a third rounder, right? You're trading a guy you got in the 11th round for a third rounder. You traded Nico Collins and ETN for Jefferson, Hampton, and Judkins. Did you fleece or lose? I think you lost just because I think ETN is a top 12 RB the rest of the year. Nico Collins, top 12 receiver the rest of the year. Judkins going to be hit or miss. Hampton, probably good, but not top 12 like ETN. And then Jefferson, slightly better than Nico Collins the rest of the year. Jettas or JSN rest of the season? I think probably JSN. I mean, Jettas is going to play better with Carson Wentz, but once McCarthy's back, he's cooked. Like on a week-to-week basis, like max is probably 15 fantasy points. Jennings or Ridley at flex. I'd go Jawan this week. The Arizona defense is just ridiculously hurt right now in the secondary. I don't even know if Will Johnson's playing, but their other two guys went on the IR. So, K9, Mason or Chase Brown, which two? That's tough. I'd probably go Mason and Kenneth Walker Jr. Yeah. Kyler or Daniel Jones. This Kyler, but it's close. I think they're right there, like 9 and 8 and 9 on my list for quarterback rankings. Kyler's last performance against the Niners last year was like 21 fantasy points. I think he averages like 19 or 20 against them over the past 3 years. And it's because the Niners have had a really hard task at, keeping dual threat quarterbacks in the pocket. They have a hard time mitigating that. So that's kind of been the Achilles heel of their defense for a long time, which is why Mahomes has beaten them in 2 Super Bowls. Part of that, right? Because, I think it was a lot of that was games on the line. Mahomes scrambles for 10 yards, right? Like that happened in both Super Bowls. Your only worry was ETN for Tootin touches. Yeah, I mean, Tootin's going to get more touches, but I just think ETN's that good. Like, why would you play? Like, you can use both of them. I think this might be like a David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs type of thing. Or Tootin might eventually become the Jahmyr Gibbs, but right now, Travis Etienne is the Jahmyr Gibbs of that offense. You know what I mean? Like, Tootin's going to get 3 or 4 catches a game, probably 20 to 40 yards a game, but Etienne's going to get 70 to 80 rushing yards and 10 to 40 receiving yards with a touchdown each game, probably. Who's my fantasy sleeper this week? Jordan Mason. I think Jordan Mason finishes as a top 10 running back this week, and I don't think it's particularly close. Like, I think he easily finishes as top 10 running back. They're going to be ahead the entire game. He's a bell cow running back. I think he gets 120 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns this week. And he's a must start. He's going to be in my must start video this week. This weekend, I post Sunday mornings, my 3 must starts, last minute, like must start guys. Henderson's still startable at flex. I would say no. The reason, so I traded London for Kenneth Walker and somebody else because I had Charbonnet. So I was willing to give up a guy like Drake London, even though I know he's going to play better, because I have Charbonnet, so I can just play Ken Walker or Charbonnet. Even if K9 gets hurt, I have Charbonnet, right? You know what I mean? And then I got a depth piece like Diggs or Ridley or somebody like that. It doesn't even matter. It's a 1 flex league, right? The problem I have with Henderson is I could not start him. He was my RB2 or Hampton. I could not start either this week until I see it and watch. Now that they're on the bench, they're going to ball out because that's typically what happens. But again, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it this week. Dobbins for Trevion. Yeah, I like that too. Dobbins for Trevion, Dobbins for Hampton. I even like but if you want to keep Dobbins, try and trade one of your depth pieces for Harvey, because I think Harvey's going to have a lot more snaps than Dobbins when we get to like week 10. He just has to be better in pass pro. That's his big problem. I'm going to go for a few more minutes here answering questions, and I got to dip. If I don't answer your question or get to your questions, make sure you're following me on TikTok. DM me. If you're following me on TikTok and DMing me, I will respond. If you don't follow me on TikTok and DM me, I will not respond. That's kind of how it goes. And I'm sorry, but that's just kind of, if I'm giving advice and if I'm doing that, like I need the support. You know what I mean? Yeah, but again, why is it Deutsch and are you doing? Hey, Pedro, bro, the game, the name, I have an S in my last name. It's a little different. But yeah, my last name is Deutsch. And trust me, it helped to be 6'6", 240. Because if I wasn't, you can only imagine the bullying with the last name like that. because the S is in there. You're like, whoa, and the C and the H, and you're like, whoa. You know what I mean? I don't have to say any more about that. But I'll answer a few more questions, and then again, follow me if you want me to respond to your DMs. I'll only respond to DMs of people that are following me. AJ Brown for Pickens and Pacheco. I do it. Yeah, at this point. I mean, AJ Brown, I would wait till he probably has a big game and then trade him. But again, yeah. Should you trade Jordan Mason plus Igbuka for Drake London? Nah, that's way too much. Keep Igbuka and Jordan Mason. Let's see. Pittman, Coleman, Golden, or Jennings. I'd go Coleman. I think Coleman has a big game tonight. Trade Rome and Javante for JSN and Swift. No, I'd keep Rome. I think Rome's a top 10 receiver the rest of the way. 6'2" is more than enough. Brother, yeah, 6'2". Tiny to me. I'm 6'6". Kidding, no. It looks weird because everyone's like, "Oh, dude, your face looks like you're 5'10" and like a $180," and it's like, well, I've always had a baby face, but I am built like a tight end, 6'6", 245. I might be 250 at this point. Start Lad, Tedder, Pickens this week. I would start Tetaroa. It's a must start right now. Tyreek or Ricky. I would start Ricky Pearsall. Tyreek's metrics against the Dolphins have been bad. Yeah. Sutton, Ridley, Keenan Allen, pick 2. I'd go Sutton and Keenan Allen. Let's see. Jacobs against Cleveland or Mason against Cincinnati. I'd lean Mason, actually. What about Nick Chubb, Waddle, or Jennings? I would go Jennings. You already have CMC and D Swift at RB. I would still be okay with Mason. Still no for London. Who are your wide receivers, Luke? Let's see. Start James Conner or Stevenson. I would start Stevenson this week. I think James Conner's a sit. Hill or Pearsall. I would say Pearsall. Yeah. Julie says Lad or Ayu Manor. Yeah, Julie. I would go with that's a tough one. I'd go Lad. I love Ayu Manor. I think they're both starts, but you can't sit Lad for Ayu Manor. I mean, Lad is at least going to get the volume. What does he add? 10 plus fantasy points of back-to-back games. Yeah, you had a guy lose his mind because you're starting T-Mac over Tyreek Hill and you're missing something. That's the right play, Jenny. Good job. ETN for Henderson. I'd keep ETN at that point. Your wide receivers are Garrett Wilson plus Igbuka, Olave. Yeah, then I'd make the trade, bro, actually. Jordan Mason plus. See if you can keep Igbuka, though. You know? Because, like, I would trade Wilson. I would literally trade Wilson plus somebody else for London instead of Igbuka. That's how high I am on Igbuka right now. JD5 or Indiana Jones. I would start Danny Dimes. JD5 isn't going to play this week. I'd be shocked if he does. Harrison or Allen. I would go probably Keenan Allen. It's crazy to say, but yeah. Still confident Nico's wide receiver 1? Yeah. Dude, he's been great. I mean, he's getting the red zone targets. I mean, the production will line up. Start Keon over DK? No, I would start DK over Keon. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, y'all, I gotta run. If you have questions, make sure to follow me on TikTok here or subscribe to my YouTube and X. But follow me on TikTok and DM me. I will only respond to DMs of people that are following me. So I appreciate you. I love you all, and I'll see you later.